us like the dark corners. Oh, if I get me a dark corner, I can hide. I'll just hide from everybody. We don't want to lead people to Christ because we don't want to talk to anybody. We don't want to see what's going on in people's lives. Brother Deal yesterday, Bruce Deal, he said, he gave us unreal statistics about sex trafficking. He has over 110 beds for ladies and children that have been rescued from sex trafficking. He gave a statistic yesterday. He said that against a woman, the average age the first time that they see that is 11 years old. He talked about 2035, the sex traffic trade, which is now the number 2 industry of crime, by 2035 will overtake the drug sale and become number 1. He said, and why? He said, why? It's because it's simple. When you sell a bag of crack cocaine, you sell it once. You can sell a 12-year-old boy 5 times a night. And he gave us these statistics. He says a lot of times you just don't want to know. But I told you, so now you know. Once you see it, all of a sudden you're like, oh man. He has started a ministry called MOST, Men Opposing Sex Trafficking. He said God told him one day, he said, you need to fix the men. He said, I looked at God and said, God, you made them, you fix them. But his idea is, while he is going out with members of his team who come from special forces and former Navy SEALs and all this stuff that are out of the military and have this special skill set. And while they are, he said the favorite thing he does now at 64 years old is strap a 9 to his hip and go kick indoors and rescue kids and women from sex trafficking. I'm looking around my table going, oh man, some of my guys. Can we go? About 200 men, and I'll say it today. About 200 men, and I'll say it today. I have no doubt that there is some men and maybe some women sitting in this sanctuary today who were looked at porn last night. Oh, Pastor, why are you saying all this stuff? Because our eyes determine us. Are we filled with light, or are we living in dark corners? And we wonder why we don't have any power. We wonder why we don't get answers from God. We wonder why we struggle. We wonder why we're having a hard time. And all the time, we're trying to live in a dark corner and say, well, there's some light over there. I'm okay. We need some floodlights to stand up. We need men and women to stand up and say, listen, I don't need a dark corner. Maybe we're talking about pornography. Maybe we're talking about hate and unforgiveness. Ooh. Now, Pastor, I got a right to be mad at them. Bishop Clardy in his message yesterday, that's one thing he said. He said there were people in his life at one point that he had convinced himself and tried to convince God that he had a right to hold a grudge against sin. And God said, no, you've got to forgive. The same grace that God used to forgive you, God expects you to dip into that very same grace and forgive every person in your life. Because our eyes, the light we think we have is actually darkness. You know what happens? I can go into this dark corner over here. And there's still some light. But when I start thinking this is light, I get in all the way in, and it's dark in here. Oh, that's my toe. There's a table in there. Cody's like, you told me to put it in there. All of a sudden, what I thought was light surrounded me in darkness. You want to know why our country is engulfed by the darkness of anxiety and depression? Because we went down a path where we think we've got light. You want to know why the church is full of anxiety and depression? Because we went down a path that we thought was light, and really it wasn't God, it was just religion. It wasn't ministry, it was just self-grandizement. It wasn't really a ministry we were doing, we were just making ourselves look good. And pretty soon we find ourselves in a dark place where we're full of depression and we're full of pain and we're full of heartache and we don't know what's going on because what we thought was light was actually darkness, and our eyes have determined that we're in the wrong place. But he said, if you are filled with light, with no dark corners, he says, then your whole life will be radiant as though a floodlight is filling you with light. Oh, all of a sudden, everything around you is bright. Everything around you is radiant. Last night, we were playing games and eating dinner in the game room at the house, and it was dim in there. The little light we have up there, not real bright. And Shane said to Michael, is there another light? Michael went into the tool room and pulled out the work light. Brought that big old halogen work light in and plugged it in. That was light. See, some of us, and let our eyes determine that there is a light shining out of us that everybody can see. There's a light shining us. You know what happens when light shines? People are attracted to the light. They want to come and see it. They want to come and see what's going on. And all of a sudden, leading people to Christ becomes easy because our eyes have determined that there is a brightness about our life. Our eyes denounce us. Our eyes determine us. And our eyes deceive us. Back in 2 Kings again, we find a story. I read just a piece of it earlier. The king of Aram was wanting to destroy Israel. And every time he made a move, Israel's army was already there. And he said, we got a spy somewhere. And somebody said, no. Said it's the man of God. The man of God, Elisha. He sees what you think in your dreams. He is a prophet, and God shows him all the secrets of your heart. And he said, find him. So the word came and said he's in Dothan. So one night the king pulls his great army together. And he comes and his servant gets up in the morning and goes outside and goes, woo! horses and chariots everywhere. The enemy is everywhere. You ever know that person? Pastor, there are devils everywhere. Duh. This got Dad in trouble one time when he was preaching. I'm going to tell you, there are devils in this room. I'm not talking about you. You're a different kind of devil. No, I'm sorry. I didn't say that. But I'm going to tell you, if we're going to praise God here, you better believe there's going to be some demons show up to disrupt. But this servant goes out and he goes, wow, the enemy's everywhere. And he comes into Elisha and goes, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I don't know. It's bad. Had a guy in my last church that he used to come around all the time going, Pastor, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. I'm like, what's bad? Somebody had to leave to go to the bathroom. It's bad. It's not that bad. It's all right. Servant comes in to Elisha. Says, we're going to die. And Elisha says, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's all right. Don't be afraid, Elisha said. For there are more on our side than on theirs. See, that's a different kind of eye. The servant has seen the enemy, but Elisha sees something different. And Elisha says, there's more with us than there are with him. The servant's looking around going, Elijah, listen. Now let me explain this to you. I went outside, outside the door, and there's chariots and horses all the way around the house. And I come back inside, and I looked all through the house, and Elisha, it's just me and you. Pastor, I went outside and I saw the schools are indoctrinating our kids against God. Our workplaces are telling us we can't talk about Jesus. We go to Walmart, and if we say things about God, people look at us like we're crazy. Now, if people look at you like you're crazy at Walmart, you must be crazy. Because if crazy people look at you like you're crazy, he said, all of a sudden we say we leave the church and we see the political system is falling apart. And we see our government is falling apart. We see that we are a laughing stock. And people think we're strange and people think we're weird. And nobody cares about us. And they think we're going crazy and blah, 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 blah. And you come in here and I go, greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. You're going, I don't think so. It doesn't feel like that. You know why? Your eyes are deceiving you. That's right. Pastor, this is the worst generation it's ever been. I got somebody says that to me every once in a while. I don't know, it's probably the worst it's ever been. Is this the worst it's ever been? Is it the worst you've ever seen? I go, well, best I can tell, ain't nobody lighting their gardens with burning Christians. That's what happened in biblical history. Nero, he lit his garden by burning Christians. You know why we think it's the worst? Because our eyes have been deceived. We have lost sight of the power. Jesus said, go and tarry in Jerusalem till you be endued with power from on high, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. You know what a witness is? A witness is somebody that's seen it. Ooh. And all of a sudden, the servant, his eyes have deceived him. Too many times we let our eyes deceive us. Pastor, you don't know how bad it is out there. I know that you're a pastor, and you live a different kind of life than the rest of us, but those of us that have it's a rough world. Let me tell you something, honey. I live in that same rough world. You think you get made fun of? Preach your first sermon during your senior year of high school and let your daddy put it in the paper. Sunday morning. Shelby High School senior Tommy Sander for preaching. Thanks, Dad. Appreciate it. We had that family living class. Anybody remember those family living classes you had in high school? Where you had to fake marriage, and you had a kid, you had to keep a budget and all that good junk. I don't remember, I don't remember if it was an egg or a bag of flour, but I had a little kid, and didn't teach me a thing when the real ones came. I'm just going to tell you, it didn't teach me a thing. That little bag of flour didn't cry like Michael did, I'm just saying. When we're going to do those, everybody knows I'm going to be a preacher. So you know what my stinking teacher did? You get to do all the weddings. So I'm glad I didn't have credentials yet, or there'd have been a bunch of seniors buried somewhere. And you talk about being made fun of. Talk about people thinking you're weird. I was weird. And all of a sudden, our eyes deceive us into thinking that God can't fix our problems. Our eyes deceive us into thinking that God can't build the church. Our eyes deceive us into thinking that God can't take care of the spiritual needs and the emotional needs and the relational needs and the physical needs and the financial needs, that all of the needs that we have, we're going to have to figure out how to get through it. And our eyes deceive us into thinking that we can't make it. But Elisha says, don't be afraid. Those that are with us are greater than those who are with the world. Can I tell you a promise today? You're not alone. If you would pick up that one phrase, you're not alone, it would change your outlook. Elisha said, God, open his eyes. Open his eyes and let him see. This is the part of the verse that we read to start this message. Oh Lord, open his eyes and let him see. The Lord opened the young man's eyes. And when he looked up, he saw the hillside around Elisha was filled with horses and chariots of fire. You want to have victory in this life? Ask God to open your eyes. Lord, anoint my eyes. Lord, I want to see myself. I want to see myself the way you see me. Let me see the struggles. Let me see the difficulties. Let me see the problems. Let me see the strengths. Let me see the blessings. I want to know what God sees in me. God, let me see the light. But more than anything, God, let me see this world the way you see this world. You know what you'll see when you start seeing this world the way God sees it? You'll see people that need Christ. You'll see hurting hearts. You'll see a young girl, 18-year-old girl, that walks into a church plant that's meeting in an office room in 1993. She comes with her neighbor. She walks into the room. She hears the message. The next week she comes back and she says, Pastor, I 18, I've got a kid. I've been a stripper for the last 2 years. But last week I met Jesus. And I quit my job. And I'm moving back home to my mom and dad's house. Pastor Beth took a Bible that I had given her, ripped out the page where I had written a little up note to her, and gave that young lady that Bible. Can I tell you, it was just a few more weeks, and that church plant got closed down. Was that plant a failure? Not on your life, because I was there for one young girl to see the truth. When you start asking God, open my eyes, anoint my eyes, let me see me, but Lord, let me see a world. That person you're mad at, all of a sudden you see compassion. That person that you walk next to at Walmart, all of a sudden you see their need. And everything changes. Pastor Beth, I want you to come to the podium. Here's what I want to do today. Last week we did a line down in Center Island, and I anointed your ears. Today we're going to do something a little different. Pastor Beth is going to be right over here. I don't bring that on. I'm going to be right over here. I want to ask every lady in this church who says, I'm ready. I'm ready to let God open my eyes to myself, because the only way you can get rid of the dark corners is to see it. Only way you can get rid of the dirt is to see it. I tell everybody I'm clutter blind. I don't see clutter. Therefore, I shouldn't be responsible for the clutter in my house, because I'm clutter blind. A lot of people look at me and go, that's not a real thing. It is. Really, it is. I don't see it. The only way that I can see a mess is for my eyes to be open to it. And what happens with me is I'll let clutter build up, and then all of a sudden one day I walk in and go, oh, this place is horrible. And I go crazy cleaning it. Angry cleaning. It's not just, oh, let's pick, no, it's angry cleaning. I can't believe this place is this bad. Because my eyes all of a sudden got open. And I saw it. The only way you can clean it up is to see it. And then the second part of this prayer that we're going to pray is, God, let us see this world like you see it. Let's see the places we need compassion. Let's see the places that we need to notice that the chariots and horses of fire are there. And the enemy has no power. The enemy can't stop us. I want all the ladies to come over here. Pastor Beth is going to pray for you, and I want all the guys, that you line up down this aisle. I'm going to pray for you. I failed to go get 2 oil things. So, Renee, you get to bounce. You get to go back and forth and let us get oil on our hands. All right now, dear Lord, I believe that there are men and women in this church that are ready to see with your eyes. Lord, I ask you to send your victory and send your power in Jesus' name. Right now,